Hey family, I just wanted to say I know the last few weeks have been really, really tough for all of you. Losing a family member is never easy, and for some of you he was a brother, and many of us, like myself, he was an uncle or he was somebody's friend. So when my mom asked me to make this video a little over a week ago, I began really contemplating what I can say as her son and a relative and also a pastor to help you grieve. Because my ultimate goal in this video is to help all of you there in California and whoever else needs this to heal. So while I cannot say that I totally understand what you're all going through, I can at the very least sympathize with you guys. You know, as a pastor, I've been part of planning numerous funerals, but that's only through a pastoral lens. Never have I ever had to try to arrange a funeral after really dealing with the loss of a loved one and having to process all that grief. So I've been part of counseling families after the death of a close loved one, and I know it takes a toll on your mental state. I know it does because I've seen it. So let me say right now, I love you guys. I love you guys with all my heart, and I'm sorry for all that you've had to endure these last few weeks. But to be completely honest, although my goal right now is to help you grieve, I have really struggled to come up with the right words to say. So instead of trying to come up with something myself, I thought, what could be better than a quote from my Uncle Tim? So to preface this, I didn't get to spend a ton of time with Uncle Tim. We moved to Arkansas when I was 11, and even before that, I just wasn't around him very often. But I do know that Uncle Tim loved me because all the time, all throughout the day, anytime he was around, he would call out my name all the time. Nobody else's name, my name. And on top of that, when I was 10 years old, he said something to me that I often look to for encouragement. And I remember one day I was at his apartment with Timmy. We were just hanging out with him, and Uncle Timmy walked up behind me and he placed his hand on my shoulder, and he said, Tim. And then he shook his head and then shrugged and walked off. And while I don't know exactly what he was trying to say, I know he was trying to do something to encourage me. And my hope today is that his words will be an encouragement to you too. But all jokes aside, I wanted to share a scripture with you guys that I really do hope will encourage you. And that is 1 Corinthians 15:55. And Paul, in that scripture, he writes, "Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting?" So we spend so much of our time on earth being scared of the prospect of dying. And I remember as a kid being petrified, thinking of all the ways that I could potentially die. And I think we have this idea from an early age that death is this terrible thing. But the older I get and the closer I get to God, the more I realize that death really is one of the greatest gifts He has ever given us. Because of death, we get to spend eternity with Jesus. And when we think of death in the terms of a gateway to eternity, death loses its sting and it has no victory over us. See, Jesus, he defeated death when He resurrected, which means there is no reason for us to fear. Uncle Tim spent years and years of his life in pain, and he was ready to be with Jesus. So I don't want you to get the wrong idea. It is okay to mourn because you will miss Him. He was a part of your life. You're going to miss him. But don't mourn because he's passed. Instead, think about how happy he is to be in the presence of Jesus. We should be singing and rejoicing, thinking about how great he has it. Like, how much better is his life now than ours here on earth? Uncle Tim, he's done. He's made it home. His ultimate goal, he has made it there. He's ran his race and he's won. But now it's our turn. It's our turn. We still have a race to win. So let me close out this video with this last question. And that is, if we could talk to Uncle Tim right now, what do you think he would want us to know? And in my personal opinion, I think he would want us to know that heaven is a very, very real, wonderful place. And on the opposite side of that, that would mean that hell is a very real, awful place. And if we want to make it to heaven to be with our lost loved ones like Uncle Tim and Grandma and Grandpa, then there is something that each of us need to do. See, Jesus died for each and every one of us, and his death paid the way for our entry into heaven. But the thing we have to do is we still have to accept that ticket. Luckily, Jesus made it extremely easy for us. See, Paul, he writes in Romans 10:9 that if we only believe he died and rose from the dead, he being Jesus rose from the dead, and confess Jesus as Lord of our life, we will be saved. So what does that mean? It means we have to believe that Jesus rose from the dead. And if we look at all the evidence of his life, death, and resurrection, then believing Jesus rose from the dead should be extremely easy for us. But the second part is a little bit more difficult. The second part is we have to confess him as Lord of our life. So when Paul wrote this letter to the Romans, confessing Jesus as Lord was one of the very earliest Christian creeds, which means it was something they would do at the start of every service. They would stand up and they would say, Jesus is Lord. But this was more than just a creed. During this time, the persecution of Christians was so bad that confessing Jesus was Lord in front of the wrong person could mean life, death, or spending your life in prison. Therefore, confessing Jesus as Lord of our life is a sign that our life belongs solely to him. It doesn't matter what happens to us. For him to be Lord of our life means that anything we put before him has to go, because he is the most important thing. So I ask you guys, do you believe Jesus rose from the dead? Are you willing to give your life solely to him and him alone? Are you willing to give up anything and everything that you have placed in your life that has taken that spot of Lord? Are you willing to give that up and place Jesus in the rightful seat as Lord of your life? Because if we are ever to see our family in heaven, we must first accept God's love that he's so graciously given to us all. But all we got to do, believe he rose from the dead, confess him as Lord of our life, live for him. So I love you guys. Once again, I love you guys. And I hope this has been an encouragement. If you have any questions or you just want to talk, I'm always available. My mom, Stephen, has my phone number. I get it from one of them. And I really, really do love you guys. I wish I could be there. And I'm sorry for all you've had to go through. So love you guys.